Hey, welcome, Mario. Thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to our conversation about product-led growth.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm definitely passionate about it, so I look forward to the conversation as well, and to network with the listeners afterwards
Yeah,
if they want that.
absolutely. So, Mario, for those out there listening, can you just give us a background into your journey, your career, where you are, and how you came across product-led growth?
Yeah, of course. I started as a software engineer many years ago. I worked for multiple startups. Some were acquired, and some continue to exist. The the in my career, I also worked for big companies that do everything but product-led growth, like Siemens, for example. And I joined Outsystems 15 years ago, and I could never find a reason to leave Outsystems because it's such a great company to work for. Lots of smart people, lots of challenges, going through hypergrowth and all these new things. And that's how I came across product-led growth. We do have a software product, and we do believe that our software product, which is a product that enables software creators, software
Mhm.
developers to be better, faster, more efficient at what they do. We just want that product to be in the hands of as many people as we want. You can imagine that having worked for 15 years in this product, I mean, it's not art if it's not in the hands of the people that take benefit
Completely
of it,
agree.
and that's essentially it's been almost a life mission to work at this company. Product-led growth is a vehicle that will hopefully get us to a place where more people will be using the product and taking value out of it.
Absolutely. So 15 years in a company. I mean, obviously 15 years ago, I can tell from a South African point of view, Agile wasn't even a thing. So can you give a quick snapshot of like how the industry has changed in your 15 years at Outsystems?
That's a very good point that you bring there. We have Back in the day, there was Agile. I remember this vividly because I worked in this project with some folks. There was Agile, extreme
Mm,
programming, and all those things popping up at the time, and and Scrum was one of those things. And
yeah.
because we didn't know what Agile was going to be in 3-4 years, we decided to create our own agile methodology, and we called it the Outsystems agile methodology, which is in essence was in essence a flavor of Scrum. But it was fun. It was fun. We ended up adopting Scrum as a methodology, both to deliver solutions to customers and to deliver our product
Yeah.
internally within engineering. So that was a great journey on
How long
that
has
note
it
as well.
been that you've kind of stuck to the Scrum Agile methodology?
Oh, if you consider that the first version of the methodology that we coined out, systems agile methodology,
Mm,
was Scrum. We just didn't want to go out there and talk about Scrum because no one knew that very well,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so we believe deeply in the principles. So we've been applying that since the beginning.
Oh,
We've
okay.
been growing and adapting and whatnot, but
But
that's
that's
part of
that's
it.
exactly that's the beauty. So let's dive
Yeah.
in now to product-led growth, because I mean that is the crux of what I'd like us to talk about, and for the listeners and the viewers to actually start grasping. So,
Mhm.
in your mind, in your words, what is product-led growth, and why is it so important?
Product, yeah, it's a good question to ask because multiple people will potentially have multiple answers. In my context, um, the purpose of product-led growth is to turn your product, your software product, uh, into the primary driver of user acquisition, user retention, and monetization. So that's essentially it. If you're coming from if you're looking at the performance of your company in a mature product-led growth company, product is a channel, an acquisition channel, and it competes against the paid channel, the account-based marketing channel, and whatnot. So that's essentially it.
Hmm. So at Outsystems, it sounds like you do a lot of custom built software, right? Yes.
Yeah. So let me give you a little bit of additional context. Our product is used to create custom built software. We ourselves do not create that for our customers. They do.
Okay.
The partners, like for example, Deloitte does that for them. The engineering team at OutSystems does a lot of
Okay.
custom development software for sure.
Okay. Okay. So I'm in a company where we build custom software for our clients. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what we are getting right is, that kind of initial phase of let's build the software for the people. And now we're moving. So this is just my experience. So I want to talk holistically for everyone listening, but there is that other phase of once you've got that MVP, that minimal viable product, let's say, to now get into that adoption and retention stage. So can we just start chatting about understanding that little phase of the product lifecycle?
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting because when we applied product-led growth at OutSystems, we were, I would say, well, in this last iteration of this, because we've done this multiple times, we were way past product market fit, I should say. And but in the initial stage, we're going to try. I believe we're going to try to validate two things: is there product market fit,
Mm-hmm.
and can we actually get people who adopt? Can we get people to adopt, and then can we get them to value? And that's a two great problems to address. I'd rather focus on the second one, which is retaining people,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's the ultimate. It's the acid test for your adoption. They may like it, they may want to subscribe for more news, etc. But will they use it, and will they buy it?
Yeah.
So that's sort of fun.
So is there like a tool or a certain way that you go about doing this acid test? Is there a philosophy that you kind of follow on each, iteration, or how do you go about figuring out that you understanding when you've got that market fit, the product market fit? Like, what do you do during that phase? I think that's the important thing, because I'm experiencing that now, where it's in the market, we're finding the market fit, but now how do we move into a product-led growth strategy from here?
Mm-hmm. So do you of course the eternal it depends answer is
Yeah.
always applicable here. but if you're already, so if I understand, you're already capturing users.
Yes. Yeah.
um,
So we're finding the market fit. We've gotten it out
mhm,
into the system. It's getting that exposure, but it's now like black canvas, and it depends, right? It's now, how do we now like find what is the value, and then start hitting it home? I know you've got your first principles, and I don't know if they tie
mhm,
into this now or not.
mhm. Yeah, we could talk about that. The finding finding value is really a we have this thing at our team currently, which we labeled eating broccoli, and it assumes that people don't like to eat broccoli. So
Okay.
if you like broccoli, think about something that you don't like eat that is relatively healthy, and that's sort of the principle. Finding how people value your product, finding how people use it, finding how they perceive it is is really hard. It's really about eating broccoli, and I guess most people will tell you, talk to your users, understand their perception, understand what they're trying to achieve, why now, what prompt them to transition. And I really like the jobs to be done approach there, which has been, as we've been applying it for some time now at this stage, really trying to understand what is it that people are trying to solve, why did they find us, how did they find us, and so on. um, moving, yeah, go ahead.
No, I wanted to just ask you to elaborate on the jobs to be done approach. Like, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. So there's this great book. I always forget the name of the book, but if you go on Amazon and search for jobs to be done, there's this very known book about it, and I forgot the name. But anyway, the idea of jobs to be done is really finding out what why are people using your product? Why do they actually use it? And they give the example of some research that was done where they applied it to milkshakes, and they realized that people were buying milkshakes. I don't know. Imagine McDonald's. They would stop to buy milkshakes at McDonald's, and they would they would buy them in the morning, right, just
Hmm.
before they went in their commute. And they tried to understand why a milkshake, why not a banana or an orange juice or a cake or a sandwich. And they came to realize that people did buy the milkshake not because it was strawberry milkshake, not because it was too sweet, or not because it was a milkshake. They bought it because it was consistent enough that it wouldn't spill over while they were driving. It would last long enough for from start to end of the commute. So
Mm.
another job to be done there would be, I would have something to do while commuting, and
Yeah.
it would be also consistent enough to keep their stomach full, so they
Yeah,
they
that's what I was
wouldn't
about to
feel
say. A
hungry or
milkshake is filling. Yeah, yeah.
thirsty.
So you feel like you're solving the hunger problem, but you're eating something delicious and tasty
Exactly.
along the way. Okay.
Exactly. So, and if I try to make a parallel to Outsystems, we enable people to develop software, to create software. But in many cases, what they were looking for was a way to get the software out there much faster than what they're. It's not about creating the software. It was about, for them, to get that solution in the hands of the users sooner than later, and the ability to iterate through
Mm, mm, mm.
after things are in production in the hands of the user. So it's another job to be done. So yeah.
Uh, Um, have you ever been exposed to a situation where someone has built custom software, for example, and the users aren't using it, and the people are kind of stunned, like they're not sure, they don't understand where their product market fit is, or yeah, they just the users aren't finding any value, but they know that what they've got is worth going for. Is a product-led growth approach the way for them to sort of figure out their way forward?
I think I'd have to think about that, because I never thought about that way. But if we think that at the core of product-led growth is the desire to create a product um, that users are proud to use, or they're happy to use, and that they're going to talk to their peers about it, then yes, right? If you anchor this to the value that you're delivering in a remarkable way, word of mouth is gonna come out of it. Like, think Dropbox, right? They optimized their product to be obviously a great product. They started small. They started launching new versions of it, and in parallel applying this product-led growth strategy. It wasn't even called product-led growth strategy at product-led growth at the time. So virality and word of mouth kind of com- created this compounding effect. Your value plus the remarkability of your product will for sure get you in the right direction. It's not, unfortunately, it's not an aspirin that you take for a headache and the headache is
Mm-mm.
gone hopefully in 10 minutes. I normally say it's a marathon, not a sprint, but it's a marathon where the destination is value for the customer, utility for the customer, for the user.
Mm.
And so I would say that they're connected. Yes.
Yeah. So you did a
Yeah.
talk for us for Product Tank, and you spoke about the first principles of product-led growth. Do you just want to kind of summarize your talk and just sort of start lay out those principles for our viewers?
Yeah, of course. So let me do just that, and then we can dig deeper if you'd like.
Yeah.
So we did look at the strategies of companies like Zoom, Atlassian, Slack, Splunk, that you may say Dropbox as well, that used these principles to power their growth, to move from where they were when they started to where they are today. And this was quite even before COVID hit. So Zoom was not where it is today, given the current context. So the first principles are things that we believe are applied regardless of market, regardless of industry. It's really something that we believed at the time was universal, and that's what we were looking for. We're trying to question our own strategy. So here you go. The first principle is lead time to first value in minutes. So this means that we want users to get to value literally in 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, not hours. If you ever used a product where you needed, to read a book to learn, that's breaking this principle, right? So that's the number one. The value in minutes creates this remarkable experience. People were going to go like talk to their peers back when we were working on an office space, and they'll share. So I'm happy to dig deeper into this one. The second principle is the recurrence of value. So once we delight users with first value in minutes, we want to start setting them up to get that value recurrently. And that's, when we might be talking about retaining users throughout time. It makes no point, for example, for Zoom to get users to be happy with that first call and then do nothing to keep them engaged, right? They want them to start using Zoom for the next call and the next call and for all calls, and they're going to
almost like an
apply
after
strategies.
So once they've used it, you're kind of engaging with them further in their experience and getting them to come back.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there are numbers of tactics that companies use to do this, but it's about that. It's about retaining the users because of the value they get, not
and I think
for something less.
So the bit of research that I've looked into on that principle, it's not that sales call, it's not that demo. I think it's about getting them to actually use the product for what it was built for. So getting them to do that, it's not a matter of, okay, now you've come on, you've signed up, now go through this demo, go through the sales pitch about why you should come on, right? That's what I've kind of done my research on.
That's precisely it. And I'm glad that you bring that up, because I failed to mention that all of this assumes that everything happens in self-service. So the other day, and I'll give you an example. The other day I was trying this analytics software, and it's, it connects to Google Analytics and a number of other tools, and it creates views and answers questions that I was trying to understand if the software would answer. So I sign up for that software. And I couldn't make it work. So I tried, I read a little bit, but at some point I gave up. And the next day, I get this call from this random person in the Netherlands trying to book a meeting about that software. And I'm like, and of course, I politely enough, I said, look, I'm not interested. I don't have time. Please email me and whatnot. This is precisely what you don't want to have, right? This is, if you want to think about this in a more futuristic way, it's, there are no humans involved. Humans are creating the great experience, period. The product
Yeah.
product offers
It's
that
almost like
experience
people
without human.
create friction instead of actually getting the value. They're actually a hurdle in getting people to use the software. If I think about Slack,
Yeah.
I got told about it. Cool, word of mouth. I signed up and I was immediately messaging my friends or whoever I needed to talk to. And if I logged off, I would be like, oh, wait, maybe there's something for me to go look at again. And I would log in. No one got me to log on that second time. And I guess that's a good way to explain it, right?
Yeah, and it's touching on the third principle there, which is
Okay.
virality. The 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 purpose of Slack is to is to have group conversations, team collaboration, and whatnot. So a user on Slack, there's no value for a single user. It may be if I don't know, if you're playing with it, trying to see if it can be installed in your network and whatnot. But past that use case, when you move on to usage, you need to bring those users. And we've had the same experience with Slack. There was this random person at Outsystems that installed Slack, started inviting other people,
Mm.
and at that point, he was convinced of the the, the value of the software. He was the champion inside Outsystems for Slack and tried to get everyone on board. And up until the point where we had to upgrade. There was no turning back. There was no turning back because there were so many conversations on Slack that switching to an alternative would just be expensive in context switching and whatnot. And that leads us to the fourth principle, which is high switching costs. Uh, Value
Mm.
is so high, our data is there, our context is there, our team was on Slack having those conversations, and IT had to upgrade because we needed the history of the conversation. So we
Yeah.
hit it that we hit it a limit in the product, and we were willing to pay for it because we were taking so much value out of it already. Um,
Yeah. I think a word that as you were going from the principle 2, 3, and 4 there, a word that popped into my head quite strongly is the word choice. So at first you choose to go on, you as the user find value in it. The second is you
mhm.
choose to go back because everyone else is using it. And now there is that virality, if I said that correctly, of using it. So you choose to use it because everyone else is using it. And then you choose to stay on it because now it's got so much value for you that you don't want to step away. So it's almost you're playing on people's choices, like their way that they think about using something. It's not forced down their throat. They choose to go through it. It's kind of coming from their side. Instead of you pushing it, it's like a pull almost.
Exactly. That's precisely it. I think choice is a very good term, particular solution inside the account, inside the company. Most often than not, it starts with one team, one pod, one group of people that are very enthusiastic about that particular product, and they'll start to spread it. And what the reason they spread it is typically because the more people of my company, my team, my department are in this tool, the more value I will take out of this tool, of this product. And that's the definition of network effect, and that's extremely hard to get to, I
Mm.
believe.
I think it talks that network effect talks about that marathon. You're not going to get that network effect in one day. You got to work at it. And I guess which leads me to the next kind of concept I want to talk about, which is I don't know if you use North Star metrics or what do you look at what metrics do you look at to say, okay, cool. Or how do you get your team to say, okay, this is this is the metric we're looking at aiming for, and it speaks to our our strategy and our goals and the way that we want to sort of adopt the product led growth. So can you just kind of give your experience on working with metrics to achieve product led growth?
Yeah, absolutely. We're still on the journey. We're still, on the marathon, and sometimes we stop to drink some water, and we keep on running and running. So anyway, the you might you might want to consider a few metrics. We just 10 seconds of context. We run on OKRs. And so the concept of key results and metrics and North Star is very dear to us. If you index the metrics to the principles, just to make it easier, lead time to first value was the first principle I talked to you about, and it's the most important one. If you cannot get your users in self-service to get to experience value within 3 to 5 to 7 minutes, it depends a lot on your product, then that's really a blocker for you to move forward. And
can
so
you not
that
move,
lead time to first value
can you not have
is the metric. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. There's a bit of a delay, but it's fine. It almost feels like that first principle is kind of the gateway to all other principles.
Yes, absolutely. If you need a customer representative, a customer success person to be with your customers for 3 hours before they can even get the product set up, you have a problem. And by solving that problem, you are applying a principle of product-led growth, but you're also applying a principle of good user experience, good product design, and whatnot.
100%.
So your team will be directionally correct, regardless of the strategy you're following, if you solve lead time to first value. And we do measure lead time to first value at Outsystems. So think about, going back to the metrics, your journey to value. There are multiple steps depending on the product. We're measuring how many people survive. We call that the survival rate from step A to step B. Let's say from sign up to product setup, from setup to the first aha moment, the moment where they go, oh, okay, I get it. I get what this is about. This is the first time it works and whatnot. So that's sort of that. And there are multiple stages. So the framework I use is measure the conversion rate or the survival rate and measure the time to get there. Both of these should be optimized continuously. The longer term metric, I guess, the other metric that you might want to look at is how is your product performing as an acquisition channel? How many people are coming in because they were invited by other users, brought by, whatever the definition is in your context. And so that's another one I would say is extremely important.
I think that makes me think of, so Wes Bush is the sort of spokesperson for product-led growth. And people always ask him, about freemiums and free trials and that kind of thing. And, just because you've got a free trial doesn't mean you have a product-led growth strategy. So what you were just talking about, that kind of where you move into that virality, I really struggle with that word, virality. I don't know if it sounds wrong, but anyways, virality. Anyways, to get viral with your product, it's not just about giving it for free. It's about getting them to come back and actually wanting to use it and not just throwing these free things at them. So you're looking at those metrics of how people are returning to your website. And I think that talks about the adoption and then really looking at the retention, which is principle 2, pretty much.
Exactly. Retention is absolutely critical. It's really hard to have one single North Star metric. If I had to pick one, would be the growth, acquisition growth, and I would have to make assumptions. The assumption would be that you're retaining people. If you're acquiring and retaining people, and all of this happens in self-service, you're good, regardless if it's 1 minute or 20. In any context, I would say acquiring people and retaining them is crucial. Now, we're forgetting, this is all good, but companies exist and they exist, and to continue to exist, they need to have a sustainable business model, which leads us to monetization. Are we able to monetize those users? Are we able to get people to pay? Ideally, they should get much more value than what they pay for, because that's how good product people are. They want to give value to people,
Mm.
and that's they want to give people they want to give value to people, but they need to sustain their business. They need to make money as well, and so the balance of all these things is crucial.
Yeah, because the costing of getting something up and working is very expensive. And it's a concept
Yeah.
that really people need to understand. So you can't just be giving things away for free. So as a product person, you really need to find that balance. And I think that's my next question is, in the team or in a company that's going for product-led growth, who are the main role players in this? You know, from your product manager to your UX, who do you have in that team, and what is the, you know, just kind of tell me about that chemistry that you have between all of them.
That's another good question. It will evolve, I guess. It evolved. We had multiple instances of this, and I've been working closely with other companies too. That this is a journey. The to start with, I guess, you're going to need data,
Yes.
and data is absolutely of the essence. So you can measure all this. So you can make sense of all this.
Mm.
Data, qualitative and quantitative data are crucial. So you take the data, and then you look at the data, and you know what to do, and right, you know what to improve, and then the
Yeah.
how to improve is typically in our context today a solution co-designed by a product person, a product experience or user experience person, and a marketing person, and so all this group together will obviously to for any of these to see the light of day, we need the engineering team to actually create the solution. So that's the the most basic, I guess, the most basic pod that I would recommend create. Data is absolutely of the essence,
Yeah.
and in our case, it's a completely cross-functional team, and we played this cross-functional. We had at some point 70-something people in product growth at Outsystems. It's bigger now, and at that point, the product growth team in the org chart had 2 people in the headcount. Everyone else was cross-functional. Really hard to do.
Yeah.
I'm not
Absolutely.
advocating for this approach, but I'm saying that it's the entire company, even sales, right? Even sales.
Yeah, that's
As
very
is a very
interesting.
important stakeholder. It's a very important stakeholder.
Yeah, I love that a lot. I think we need to wrap up, and I'd love, Mario, for you to be a recurring guest on my podcast, because I feel like the subject is, we've only just touching the surface here. But if
Sure.
there was reading material or a book that you would advise people to read, or resource for people to go find out more so they can get exposure to product-led growth, where would you send them, or what would you tell them to read?
3 things. Product-led growth by Wes Bush, and I'm sure Wes is going to be watching this podcast. We'll share that with him. I know you're in close contact with him as well. So Wes Bush's book, very good place to start. Then this is how I started, at least. And then Hacking Growth by Sean Ellis, if my memory is right. Then there's depending on, and then you might want to go into a deeper training that would be Reforge, reforge.com. So good by Brian Balfour, good resource.
Okay.
That's how I started. Although
Okay.
Wes's book didn't exist, so I started with Sean's book first.
Okay, cool. Well, those are great. That's a great, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a starting point, and then it's about, you know, taking what you've learned and go and implement it, and start seeing where the light bulbs come, and then go find more resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool, Mario. Well, thank you very much for today. Thanks for joining and sharing your insights. And I'm being serious about having you on again. I know
Awesome.
it took
I'll be happy to.
It took a while to get us here, but we can definitely set it up for the new year.
It's cool. This is cool. Thank you very much. Stay safe, and
Yeah,
thank
you
you for,
too.
again. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
No, thank you for joining. I really enjoyed it. I'll speak again. Thanks, Mario.